anyways, you said you did some fitness classes at 24 Hour Fitness.
Yeah.
And then you joined Lifetime in 2018.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, so I started at 24 Hour Fitness in 2012. And then Genesis bought all those in the Gold Gym. So I was with them for about a year and a half and then went to Lifetime in 2018. But yeah, the majority of really got into group fitness at Lifetime.
Yeah. How did you join Lifetime, or why? Was it like us where your spouse had to convince you to start at Lifetime?
No. So when I was in college, that's where I went to work out the majority of the time. So me and my buddies, we would go there. So I was familiar with Lifetime, but one of my fitness managers from 24 Hour Fitness currently, or at that time, was one of the assistants at Lifetime. And he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about coming to Lifetime?" This was at a good time for me to, I was ready to leave Genesis at that time. So it was like perfect timing. And so I went over there, showed me around, talked to him, and then I was like, "Yep, sign me up." So that's kind of, he pulled me over there. He's a familiar face. And then 2 weeks later, he left. I was like, dude. But no, it was good. It was good. Yeah.
So rewinding a little bit more, you were a music major in college. Is that right? Can
Yeah.
you tell us how you transitioned into fitness from that?
Yeah. Well, growing up, I was always doing both, like sports and that sort of thing, but also music. I started playing piano in 3rd grade, grew up singing in choirs and stuff like that. Being from a small town in Western Kansas, I played every sport that I could within the season. So whereas out in Western Kansas, like, track, baseball when I was younger, and then basketball, football. So I was always in the weight room with that, still doing music stuff. So just naturally went in college, even though I was playing football in Mid-America, or that's what I went there for. I was still in choir as me and one of the other defensive linemen were the only football players in choir. So I still did both. And so when it came time, that's to switch my degree to music. So it wasn't originally that, but that's kind of how it was. So it was pretty smooth. Just all done it my entire life.
Did you know that you wanted to do group classes and training sort of like CrossFit right away? Because I think I've heard you mention that you never thought you would be doing something like this.
No. Matter of fact, when I became a trainer and I was just doing one-on-ones all the time, I enjoyed that quite a bit. And from the CrossFit side, I was definitely one of those that talked a lot of smack on CrossFit. Thought it was stupid. All they do is get people hurt, look at their form, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? So, and then in the group stuff, I just enjoyed doing one-on-ones and didn't really want to do a whole group thing. Like I said, we were talking at 24 Hour Fitness. I did some boot camp stuff. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. So when I was at Lifetime and the opportunity arose to take over the 5 and 6 a.m. classes, I like getting up early too. So I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'll get up even earlier so I'd get off earlier if I want to. So that's kind of how I fell into that. But yeah, I didn't really, from the get-go, from the beginning, think that I would want to do group classes, let alone CrossFit, because I used to, talk so much crap on it.
Yeah. So how'd you start then? You were just assigned to do that?
Oh, well, we were in a meeting, all of our trainers, and then the girl that was doing the 5 and 6 a.m. classes, she left, and then they were like, "We need somebody to take over these classes," and I rose my hand. I was like, "I'll do it." Not many people like to get up super early if they don't have to.
One of the things we have in common.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll gladly get up even earlier to do these classes, and I've been addicted ever since. I don't know. Once I get out of bed, I'm awake, so I don't have any issue getting up early. So,
and then from starting the classes to, I guess, when you started enjoying the more like social functional fitness, CrossFit, whatever you want to call it, how long did that take? And how did you go from, I'm just willing to start these alpha classes to, I guess, getting into the
Do you mean him personally enjoying it, or enjoying it as a coach? Like personally, both. You participate in that type of training yourself as well. Like,
you're doing monster games.
Correct.
Yeah.
As
so
an
like,
athlete this summer.
How long did it take you from being a hater to being like, oh, this isn't too bad?
Yeah. So the transition, whenever I took over the alpha classes, strictly just strength and conditioning. And to be honest, that's how I explain it to people now. Because as we've talked, Kyle, like it's more that than the traditional CrossFit methodology. So that's how I explain it to people. And that's what it was. There were some movements, like some of the more gymnastic stuff that wasn't as heavily involved as we do now in class, that I was sitting there like, I'm supposed to coach these, but I can't do anything upside down. I can't do anything but a strict pull-up or any of the other more CrossFit-y type stuff. So I was like, well, I got to be able to do this stuff if I'm going to coach it, and I got to learn better ways to coach it and cue it and all that stuff. So I did that pretty much so I could teach it to others. And then I just like the challenge of learning new things. And then one summer, wasn't me, but a group from Alpha did a CrossFit competition, and I went and watched it, and I was like, this is freaking cool. And so then the next big competition that came around, there was a more bigger group. And I think I said that this was probably going to be my one and only one that I would do. And then as soon as I was done, maybe not as soon as I was done, maybe like a couple of days later, I was like, okay, I got to do another one. And so it was just addicting, learning new things, pushing yourself, and also the competitive side, because I'm super competitive when it comes to stuff.
How long did it take you to get burned out? Because I see a lot of people start and they do a whole bunch of competitions and then get burned out on them. Maybe never?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll definitely dwindle it down. There was one year, a couple of years ago, I don't remember how many I did, but I feel like I was doing every competition that would pop up. Now, we've done it, and I think everybody kind of goes through that. They're like, oh, more competitions. I've kind of found the ones that I personally really enjoy locally. Everybody has their different opinions, even within our Alpha community. But with the toll it takes on my body and training and going through it, like I said, I found the ones I like. So I've kind of knocked that down to just 2 or 3. Monster Games, now that it's in Overland Park, would be a new one, but I've always wanted to do that. It was just, I just can't travel when it was in Joplin. So when it was going to be here, I was super excited about it. So yeah, for me, just 2 or 3. I think if I tried to do a lot of them, I would get burnt out. So I need that balance of training for a competition, because that's part of the fun, but also at the same time, I need that just to be able to do like normal training, just to try to get better at the weaknesses and not just what's coming up in the competition or what might come up in the competition. So
speaking of competitions, I recall 2 years ago when I started, you had invited me to a competition class, just Saturday morning competition class. Yeah. And there's only like 7 or 8 people that would usually go to that class. Like it was not a hugely attended class. And now, it's packed every Saturday morning. What do you, in the 2 years that it's been, like, what do you attribute that like huge growth in the community and the people interested in that sort of competition aspect?
I would say, over the last 2 years, we've just gotten more and more people to do the outside competitions. Mm-hmm. I always view it as like back when I was in track, or like when I wrestled way back in the day. We always would take, a lot of people, big old track team. You did track, right? It's just really cool to take a lot of people and to watch everybody and their events and support everybody. Yet, it's individual, but it's still like an overall team. And I like that feeling. So anytime somebody would pop into Alpha for the first time, after watching them for a few weeks, if I felt like they could even compete in scaled, like I would just always give them a little nudge to try to do it. And so over the course of 2 years, we got more and more people to do it. In order to get ready for those competitions, I would recommend like come to this competition class, because the workouts we're doing are going to be scored like they would at a competition, which is usually they're slightly different format wise than what would be in a normal workout, especially a lot of team stuff, pairs or 3s or 4s. So I just think over that time, enough people are doing the outside competitions that they just naturally come to the competition class. So it grew from, like you said, around 8 people to, I think the most I've had is between 35 and 40. Usually when we're getting ready for those big 4-team competitions and stuff, everybody's showing up and we pretty much take over the whole fitness floor.
It's chaotic. It is chaotic, but fun.
I've noted that a lot of the benefit that people see from that, I would consider it social benefit. Because when we first signed up, yes, we wanted the accountability, and yes, we wanted the programming, because it's great to have everything programmed. But a lot of people who do this group classes, Alpha classes, have kids. You have kids that are slightly older than ours, and it's okay for adults to want to have fun.
Mhm.
And there's just not a lot of outlets where you can do that. And I think that that's one of the main benefits. I don't, a lot of people are hyper competitive. I would consider myself, actually, I'll ask you how you see us as far as like competitiveness versus just wanting to try hard. But I am, in my opinion, I am for sure a try hard.
Yeah.
But win
I'll
or
have an
lose,
answer
like,
for this.
win or lose, I feel like the social benefit is more important.
Yes.
Okay. So here's just from my point of view, and we're going to talk from a class perspective and then in competition. In class, I see Maddie is more competitive when stuff is like going on and you're like the try hard. But goodness gracious, when we get in a competition, you're one of the most competitive people that I feel like I've seen. So it switches. Not that Maddie's not competitive in the competition,
No.
but there's some kind of switch that happens once we're like in competition for you. So I don't know if you feel that or notice a difference, but I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you think pretty similarly, because whenever you give these epic pre-competition speeches, which are different than your pre-class speeches.
They are. Yeah, they are.
You say things like, leave it all on the table. Try as hard as you can, with the stipulation that don't try so hard that you're going to get injured.
Correct.
So, I hear people say, oh yeah, I'll just try as hard as possible, but I'll probably get injured, but it's fine because it's a competition. So I think there's a caveat there, but I don't want to try less hard than I possibly could, because then you just kind of feel. You also have a technique class.
Yes.
That is by far the least well attended.
Yep. Oh my God. So we just do primarily breaking down the Olympic lifts to work on all the different issues that people could have. Normally, as I go through the beginning part of the week or coming off of the end of last week, for some reason, I'll start seeing more and more of one thing. You buy a car, you start seeing that same car everywhere, that sort of thing. So if I see one person do something like an issue, then sometimes I start seeing that everywhere else. So we'll address that issue and maybe a couple others. But yes, it's definitely the smallest classes throughout the week. I think it's a combination of a few things. I think one, I want it to be lighter. I want it to be a little bit slower, so we can work through things. So I'm not trying to kill you. We don't do a conditioning part at the end, unlike all the other classes, or pretty much all the other classes. Also, I think some people get it is some basic stuff. And some people, I think, oh, I've been doing this long enough. I don't need the basics anymore. That sort of thing. Somebody just sent me a quote the other day, literally about this. I wish I would say it if I can remember it. Maybe it'll come to me. I'm going to try to paraphrase it. Something about beginners. Beginners will work on or people think that only the beginners work on the basics, like champions or the greatest know that something like the basics have to be done every day, something like that. But I was like, oh yeah, I try to tell people that all the time. But I think I get that from like playing football in high school. My football coach, we hammered the basics so much, and that's why I use the 1 degree thing all the time. My favorite quote: the difference between hot water and steam is 1 degree. Little things make the difference. Talk about the little things all the time. So yeah, wish I could get more people to come. And it gets big, and it'll get smaller. Like with any class, things grow and shrink a little bit. But yeah, everybody needs it. Not everybody comes.
What's an example of a normal class? Maybe today's class.
Like just the format and the flow and everything. Yeah. So like I said, it's more strength and conditioning.
So you do, I guess, you do a warm up. So you might do some rowing or bike, and you do some technique things to pre-prime the movement.
Yeah.
Presumably your neurologic system. And then I assume you did some sort of cleans or squat cleans, and what are the other exercises as an example? Yeah.
So that's the type of warm ups that we do, depending on the movement patterns that we're going to do that day. And we are creatures of habit, stay in the routine. I believe that's how you get better at things.
That's what CrossFit says, right?
Constantly,
Constantly varied.
Yeah, absolutely not. Like I said, I threw the CrossFit terms around. We do CrossFit competitions, but I would say that we are not CrossFit from that standpoint. There are similarities in the movements and stuff we do, but yeah, we start with the strength and we do the conditioning at the end. So today we warmed up. We did some like a clean complex, working up to like 80%. We're trying to, the last couple weeks, we're working at building up to heavy hang. We do a lot of stuff from the ground normally. So worked through that. We did some back squats, and then we did some, what did we do? Some pulling. Mondays are squat pulls. So we worked on pull-ups and a lunge variation, and then we went into the conditioning part, which I believe was double unders, which you said you did at home today. And then burpee box jump overs, and then some like lighter, clean cycling stuff. We like to throw that in there too. So legs were pretty toasted at the end, but that's all right. That was kind of the goal for today.
And what goes into forming the programming that you do? Because it's different. It's so different than
CrossFit. So the base of it, or like the base of it is exactly or very close to what it was when I first started, meaning like the squat pull day. So Mondays and Wednesdays, squat pull day, squat pull. Tuesdays and Thursday night, Friday morning are hinge push. And then Saturday, like I said, competition class, and we just do kind of upper body lifting, arm farm. So that has always been there, that to some extent, that structure. And then programming on the day in and day out. Georgia, who coaches the evening classes, we get together and we lay out like the macro cycle, or kind of like however long we want that cycle to be. So we know exactly where the percentages are going, the progression that we're doing for the main compound lifts, the Olympic lifts, and that sort of thing. We figured that all out way ahead of time. And then week over week after that, we fill in the accessories and the conditioning parts. Week over week.
If you had different people in your class, would you program differently?
I would say we do have different people in our classes. Like, it's hard to see it from outside. Like if you stand and watch the class, it seems like, oh, everybody's a badass. And we're like, oh, people say it's intimidating. I'm like, if you knew the different levels of fitness going on in that class, and just because the board looks like it is, I tell people sometimes there's 3, 4, even 5 different versions of that board going on at the same time.
Yep.
Because I'll adjust stuff for people going through that are banged up with injuries, or maybe they just can't do certain things. So it's like scaled down, or if I need to completely change it all together, then I will. I want them to still be part of the community. So, yeah, there's different levels all around. I've been asked that question by upward people in Lifetime.
Like Jim Lavelle, the chief science officer of Lifetime. He was just sitting here less than a month ago.
Yeah, not him. I've not talked to him.
We're releasing the first part of that podcast Friday, and we actually asked him about a lot of the fitness programming at Lifetime, and I think he thinks very similarly to us.
Okay.
So that was great to see. But I think one of the things that I do really like about your programming is that there is a progressive overload component, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, but it seems like both males and females, which I think you program pretty similarly for. I mean, they can obviously do different variations. Both the males and the females make significant strength gains when they start versus down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that, I mean, I like our programming. I would think anybody that gets started working out is going to see a significant change, whatever type of, working out they're doing. But within our, like some people they've been trying to get stronger on their own. But I mean, if you don't know how to program for that, or you're actually just not following a program consistently, then when you come into ours and it's percentage based, so you don't have to guess whether you're on most things are percentage based, the main movements. You don't have to guess, am I using the right weight or not? Then you can see progress if you can, you're not just the maxing out part or whatever, whether it be 1 rep, 3 rep or whatever, but you can do more at your 80% now than you could 4 or 6 weeks ago, that sort of thing. I mean, that's how they see the jumps from the get-go. I mean, they're on a better program than whatever they were doing before, if they were doing anything before.
Yeah. Speaking specifically about women that you train or in your classes, have you had any women accidentally get too bulky after starting your programming?
Nope.
Not that you could think about? Okay.
No, not accidentally get too bulky. Definitely
It's really
not.
great programming. I didn't know.
Yeah. Can't say I've met anybody that just woke up the next morning and was like, oh, shoot, I'm too bulky today.
I got too strong, too many gains.
Yeah,
All right.
haven't had that complaint. Not yet.
Just curious. What, segueing, talking about a little bit of maxing out. We do that at the end of every, 16, 18 week cycle. Depends like that.
Yeah.
A lot of successes there. What successes get you most amped up and excited for your either personal clients or groups? Like, what gets you most?
You're gonna make me cry if I start talking about this.
I was hoping
just so you guys know. So you were hoping for that?
We were in the car and I was talking to Kyle. I was like, I wonder if I can get some tears out of Stormy.
So just to put it out there, I'm a very emotional person, and certain things can get me going. I've shed some tears at some competitions before. Anyway, but leading into that, that's what it is. It doesn't have to happen at a competition, but those stories where people do stuff that they didn't think was possible, or even maybe they never even ever thought about it. And a lot of times that comes off of competitions, which is why I think I push people to do it so much, is because we go through. Yeah, it's going to get me. My thing is I won't pound the table. Normally I can pound the table and it snaps me out of it. But we try. The reason we do it, CrossFit says that you do hard things and a controlled environment, and then you get out in life when stuff hits you in the face, and you it's more easy to deal with. And so I've gotten all kinds of stories coming off competitions. But just the other day, with the CrossFit Opens going on, I don't know if you saw it, Lauren. She posted her thing. It got me. When I read her thing, I was shedding. I was crying. Gosh, dang it. Actually, this happened whenever I had Sky, my daughter, who's now 9. As soon as she was born, I started crying over everything. But anyway, when she first did this workout, when she first joined Alpha, I guess how it was, a month afterwards, Open happens in February. I'm like, you should.
3 years ago, right?
3 years ago, yes. I was like, you should do the Open. But she was traveling. She was down in Florida, I believe. And I was like, well, you're going to have to go to a CrossFit gym down there and do it. So she did what was now 25.2 is 22.3 back then. The first time it ran through, she did it, couldn't do a single pull-up. She got stuck, had to sit there and watch everybody and that sort of thing. She said it was a little bit embarrassing. 3 years later, she did it. This time, she did the scaled version then. She RX'd it this time, got through all the pull-ups, and then got through, I think, majority of the chest to bar, something like that. So it was a big moment for her to see the progress. And so
cool.
those type of things. I like seeing people get stronger, get more fit and stuff, but it's the realization that you have become better, maybe not even physically, but mentally as well, emotionally. I don't know. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stories running through my mind from people that's what gets me. Yeah.
Excited. Yeah.
Okay. Now don't make me cry now.
Other than that, is there something that you like specifically about the Lenexa Kansas Lifetime group?
It's a pretty unique group. I try to explain it to other people. It's a pretty tight knit, involved group.
It's
for a big box
group. That's true. I guess I haven't really been a part of other groups necessarily, so I don't know any different than our group. You guys have been other places more than I have, so you could honestly speak to that difference a little bit more than I could. But it is pretty tight knit for them. I think anywhere you go, there's the groups of friends, but all in all, we support each other. That's what I want to happen anyway. There's every once in a while there's issues that pop up that I just try to deal with and hey guys, we're on the same team sort of thing. But we do. I always set once again, when we go to competitions, even though I'm super competitive, I would much rather somebody beat me, which you guys did. I'd much rather somebody beat me that's in our group. Yeah. As I love to see, really, I love to see other people succeed more than myself, even though I'm super competitive. And I think the majority of us all support each other that way, and then hang out outside of the gym too, and doing various things. So
yeah, I just compared to other gyms, the other CrossFit gym we go to, there's a higher percentage of people who compete than
Oh,
there. Like, yeah, like
within the Alpha program.
yeah, there's just like a really high percentage of, I'd say, a lot of us that
Yeah,
go
it's
out to
probably
these events
because
together.
it's probably because, like I said, almost everybody that walks in there, I'm like, you can compete if you want.
you should probably do this.
I was like, and they're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, there's different divisions. You can do it. So the only people that I don't say that to are just maybe like brand new people or people that are just have past injuries to a point where like it just completely doesn't make sense for them to do that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess, and well, then the more people who do it, they see it, and then it gets
contagious.
Contagious. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So I don't know. The more people there is, the more it grows, and we have pretty much our whole Alpha group doing competitions.
And you are a fearless leader. I think everyone would agree with that. When you touched on this a little bit, but being that kind of coach leader position, how do you deal with the drama and the cliques? What's your approach?
The best I can. I try to straddle the fence. I feel like I do a decent job. The best I can. I try to hear it from both sides. I will say I feel like I'm pretty good at any situation, even if it's a disagreement with myself and somebody else, being able to see their side of it.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm like really heated in the 5 minutes that it's happening, maybe I'm only seeing in my tunnel vision, but give me 10 or 15 minutes and I can see how much of an idiot I was and I can see it from their side. So I try to see it from all sides. Whatever the issue is, try to explain that to both sides separately. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure there's probably stuff going on that I don't know about.
Which is good. You don't want to know about everything.
Yeah, I don't want to know all the drama. But
I didn't think there was any drama.
Yeah, you're not in it either, I guess.
All in all, I think we're in a good spot. All in all, there's always going to be little things here and there.
A healthy group.
Yeah. Compared to a CrossFit gym, I can think of one other difference. How is it fair? By the way, I agree with this, but I don't know why. How is it fair that girls can take their shirts off when they're sweaty and hot, but guys cannot?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you wore a bra, maybe you could. I don't know.
There it is. That would be fair.
That is a good answer.
That's a great point. Yeah, because we can't do that in Lifetime. That's for sure. But the guys can't. But you see plenty of girls and they're taking their shirts off in sports bra, whatever, and working out.
It'd be a lot sweatier and nastier if we did. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Earlier, you kind of weighed in on our competitiveness, but how hard is it to train both of us?
Start with Kyle.
Not like I said in class is like goes hard, but is pretty like laid back goes hard though, So that's like not difficult. Pretty much just like, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay, let's go do it. And Maddie, you're not hard to train, but there's some not pushback, but there's questions from time to time about doing this or why don't we do this or how come we're doing this, which is great. I like that type of thing. So neither one of you are hard to train.
What about areas of growth that you've seen? Have you seen Kyle make big improvements in things? Can you speak to that at all?
Well, yeah. All this
everything that he's learned how to do. I don't know.
Like pretty much. Like whenever you guys showed up, obviously I didn't know much about you guys, but I think when you ever said Kyle was going to start coming to class, I think you said his main goals, and you can correct me, was like some 400-pound deadlift. Like over that, I believe, and a run. Maybe it was a
5-minute run.
and a 5 minute. Was a 5 minute
5-minute mile and a 500-pound deadlift.
500-pound deadlift. Okay, yeah. So
that's like a fitness challenge that YouTubers were doing.
And that was your goal. Yeah. So I mean, did you
ever do that?
Did you get there?
I did the same month, but not the same day. So technically,
was it supposed to be the same day?
Yeah,
it's supposed to be the same day.
It doesn't count. We'll have to work on that.
I'm still impressed that it was
or even back to back. But yeah, I did. But I've set a lot of other goals that I didn't think that I'd care about.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, you told me you never thought that you would be doing functional fitness or CrossFit type stuff. And I would certainly be in the same category as that. And of course, I'm very public on the podcast of my, if we're talking about butterfly pull-ups, for example, or even handstand push-ups. I call them headstand push-ups because that's what James calls them. Then, I'm very clear about, yes, this is like the only benefit for this is because it's might be in a social competition.
Yeah, that's usually my answer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, when people come up, they're like, "That's not a pull-up." Yeah, Right. You're
Yeah.
not going to get stronger doing that. Yeah, you're right. It's for competitive purposes only. Thank you.
One thing that Maddie and I were talking about is, I'm sure you get a lot of questions about supplements or HRT or Ozempic and GLP-1s. And I'm obviously a doctor that has patients on these, but you also get questions about, nutrition and what people should eat. And sometimes weight or even body composition is a bit of a touchy topic, especially more so with females. But I guess how do you ride that line to help give people advice depending on their goals? Do they want to get stronger? Do they want to get better at gymnastics?
People in general, or you're talking about females?
Both, but
I mean, it's probably my
mostly
answer is
female,
probably about the
I mean,
same.
Yeah.
Normally, like it comes back if you can be consistent in class, if they're coming there, then I don't have to worry about that stuff so much. So it's probably along the nutrition side or the lifestyle side. So a lot of times I'll just have the questions. I want to see what they're doing already. And I'm pretty basic. I don't try to talk about stuff that I don't know a lot about, or, everything's changing, but the basic things that are so important, like sleep and then get enough protein, hydration, like literally those basic things, a lot of people are not doing correctly.
Sleep more, but come to class at 5 a.m. every day.
Yeah, go to bed early enough so you can do it. But just making sure they're on the right track with those. Because I know I've seen it that if people can change those little things and they come to class consistently and they don't get impatient, then over the course of a year or 2 years and they stick with it, they're going to love how they look and how they feel and what they're doing. Like I've seen it so much. But you got to stay patient. People get impatient.
Yeah. So what is the big, and you kind of just touched on it, the big difference between people that see results and don't? Like what?
In what way?
Two different people that come in. Like what's how am I? You want to help me out here?
Yeah.
With this?
Two people are attending class
Mhm.
pretty regularly, and one of them sees phenomenal results and one of them does not.
Oh, like what are they doing probably?
Yeah.
Or what are your thoughts? Or
Yeah, it's usually probably on the nutrition side.
Yeah.
Or like one of those factors. Or, a lot of people will think that they're doing what they need to be doing eating wise, or they think that they're eating clean or getting enough protein, or, they're eating healthy enough where they don't realize where all the hidden calories are, or there's the trash that they're eating when they go, or how often they're doing it, that sort of thing. So, I mean, the people that see the best results eat pretty clean the majority of the time and watch those types of things. So it's getting people all on board with that. I mean, those are the biggest things of the smallest
Nutrition,
things.
sleep.
I mean, like the normal, anybody, but everybody's going to say that stuff, but those make such a big difference.
Yeah.
So
There's going to be commenters right now that are saying, well, what he really should be saying is peptides, TRT, Ozempic, etc.
yeah.
But when I talk about how those things are actually relatively minor, they say, oh, they're just, saying it's minor. But it is true that those are just tools to help the diet, the sleep, or whatever, that people should, hopefully talk to their doctor about them. But what do you tell people when they ask you about those?
I mean, I think it goes back to when we talked about earlier about the basics, like literally like eating enough protein, sleep, and hydration, eating healthy. Like those are basic things. Mm-hmm. Once you're doing the basic things correctly, then look in other areas. Like even before all that, like back when I was just a regular trainer and people would ask me just about like fat burners or something like that, you know, my question was always like, well, how are these other things? Because if all these other things are trash, any other supplement you're going to take to try to achieve that little bit, it's not going to do anything for you because you're not doing the basic things correctly. So it always comes back to the basics, hot water and steam.
Yeah, definitely. Even in clinical practice, the two most difficult things to get people to do is improve their diet and then have consistent exercise. Yeah. Not even this perfect, hypothetical 100% training plan that's going to give you the best results. It's just a training plan that they can adhere to consistently. Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, if I can get people coming to class consistently, and that's not even every day. Like people could come every day if they wanted to. We don't have anything on Sundays, but if I get somebody there like 3 times a week, you come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever your 3 times a week looks like, that's enough for me to see a difference over time. In conjunction with fixing your diet and
getting proper sleep, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
I posted about some of my training stuff earlier when I was doing High Rocks or something. And I posted about how I did some running at Run Club, which is free, by the way. And I got some free training from Jeremy. Or I didn't get free training, but I knew he had free training. And then, Lifetime is not a cheap gym. They don't want to be a gym. Lifetime's not a fitness health club.
Yeah. That's probably what they want you to say.
Sorry, health club. That is, cheap to attend. Maybe less people would attend if it's cheaper. There is kind of this weird phenomenon where the more expensive it is, the more you likely are to use it, even if it's the same product. But, there was a whole bunch of people that said, oh, must be nice to pay thousands of dollars for trainers.
Three personal trainers.
Yeah, we actually don't even pay for a Lifetime.
What?
Yeah, someone commented.
Must be nice to have 3 personal trainers helping you out.
He was talking about Run Club, Jeremy,
yes.
I haven't paid
you,
anything.
and
They're like, if I had enough money to do that,
I'd be able
which
to
we
do that too.
we actually paid $0 to that. Now, the clinic does actually fully purchase Lifetime memberships for all full-time employees and their spouses.
Yeah.
So we do kind of pay for it, but we don't. Anyways, I guess what's your advice to people that say it's too expensive to get, a trainer or a group class to stay in shape?
Well, there's all kinds of programs out there, and really one of the reasons people don't see results is because they don't stick with a program long enough. So I guarantee you, even if you go on bodybuilding.com and pick one of their programs and you stick with it for a few months, you're going to see better results than you are now.
For sure.
So there are things out there. Just once again, people get impatient because they don't see things fast enough. You got to stick with something long enough to see any kind of results. So
I also think that it is more expensive not to have a consistent training plan.
Correct.
Because your medical bills and other things will pile up and your quality of life. Just like it's more expensive not to get your oil change for a car.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
One thing that is a common complaint is there's too much deadlifting or too much Olympic lifting. And of course, some people do get injured when they deadlift or Olympic lift or whatnot. We had Dr. Sean Wheeler with Body Guitar Clinic, a local sports medicine and back pain specialist doctor. And he is actually not sure how old he is, but he's around my parents' age. So he's significantly older than we are. And he still does box jumps and reasonable weight, things like deadlift and squats. So I think it can be safe. But a lot of fitness experts are saying, you shouldn't deadlift and do squats. What do you say to people that complain about an injury when let's say they're doing a deadlift or it doesn't really matter, Olympic lift, whatever else?
Like they sustain an injury or they're scared to get injured?
They're scared to get injured, especially in the case of a previous injury. Because by age 50, more than 50% of people will have a herniated disc in their back.
Well, I definitely feel, unless there's something like really bad that technically you absolutely shouldn't be doing it. I do think if you're doing it correctly and you start with a light enough load, over time, you should be fine. Now, I say that at the risk of saying, something stupid, but that's kind of how I go. If somebody comes in like, oh, I've had this injury back, in the past, I pretty much ask like, does it bother you in like everyday stuff? Like when does it bother you? It's probably just weak, like if you stay away from it and, don't do those types of things, it's probably just getting weaker and weaker as you get older. So start light enough with proper form and then you can slowly progress it. And, it gets to a point like, certain people don't need to be maxing out or don't need to be doing super crazy heavy stuff, but starting low enough, progressive overload over time, it should be safe. Yeah. I know that I've seen a lot of like experts out there saying, people should not deadlift over this age or anything like that. Olympic lifting, like cleans, are probably okay. I get the overhead stuff with snatch, that to a certain point, do people need to really be doing overhead squats and going overhead? Maybe not. That's kind of dependent on the person and what their goals are, where they're at. If you come to Alpha and you stick with Alpha, then you're telling me that you want to learn how to Olympic lift. The people that come and try it and don't end up staying, maybe they don't like that. And it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But if you come to our class, you're going to learn how to do it.
Reminds me of Kyle when you first started not having the shoulder mobility to snatch.
I couldn't even overhead
Do you
squat
remember that?
a
Yeah.
PVC pipe when I
Yeah,
started.
so he was so frustrated. For
Yeah,
a while
I don't-
because he couldn't even get with the pipe.
Maybe I told you this when you started. Anybody that comes in that's like so tight or has terrible shoulder mobility and can't do that, I think back to this was before the configuration where we only had 5 squat racks. It was set up a little bit different. I had this guy, him and his wife joined. His wife was like super mobile, great, could move really well under the bar. And his pecs and everything were so tight, terrible. It was, yeah. So, and I just remember over time, we stayed really light and did some other stretching and stuff to warm up and stuff. But he got to the point where he could get it in the proper position to where he was snatching on his own. A lot of people won't come and snatch because they don't, if you're not good at something, you don't enjoy doing it. And nobody's good at snatching when you start. So a lot of people don't want to do that, especially if it feels uncomfortable. So anyway, I say all that. I don't remember if I always use him as an example because he was the worst I ever saw. And he got better over time because he put in the work, and even though he didn't like it at first. So usually I'm always like, it'll get better. You just gotta do it and work on it. So, and you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes mobility is a reminder that you're not ready to take that step. I've said this on the podcast multiple times, but when I started class, I at least had the fitness knowledge to know the first 4 to 6 months you do something new that's significantly loading your tendons and ligaments, then you need to take it easy. And maybe you noticed this, or I don't know if you did notice, but the first 6 months for all of the new movements, I took it nice and easy and just expended my energy on stuff I was comfortable with.
I wish I could get everybody to do that when they first joined. And a lot of people will.
I
A lot of people will.
The first 6 months seemed like a long time because Maddie progressed very quickly. And I was literally just trying to let my tendons and ligaments adapt to where I didn't get injured.
Yeah. I would say there's been a couple other people that have taken it really slow like that. And it seems like they're behind, but then they get to the point where they're kind of good to go and they go, I've seen that. And then their form is so much better than everybody else. Not everybody, a lot of people, because they took the time to increase their mobility and get good with whatever the movements we're working on. And so then they can finally load the weight where they want to. So
you mentioned some career highs and some successes that you were really happy about. Is there any sort of career low or time that you thought about completely switching from this?
I wouldn't call it a low. I mean, we talked about earlier, so I have a music degree. There was a time when I was a couple years in at 24 Hour Fitness. I still thought I wanted to be a music director. I wanted to direct high school choirs, and maybe like an assistant football coach would have been a weird combination, I guess. But so I went to UMKC for a little bit. I was getting my master's in music and teaching certification, and I thought that's the route I was going to go. That wasn't necessarily a low, but it's just like it would have taken me off that. But I ended up sticking with this and not doing that. I wouldn't say there's been any lows where I just wanted to stop and quit or anything. There's been times where I was less motivated. Not that I wanted to completely stop, but
Have you always been motivated enough to do your own programming? Because I know that not all lifetimes do that.
Oh, like for Alpha.
So presumably that's a lot of basically extra work that you're doing that you just don't have to do.
Yeah. So when I took over, everybody did that. There was no national programming. And so that's just what I was used to. As a trainer, you're used to programming for your clients anyway. And like I said, the boot camp class I did way back in the day. So I was just used to that. And gave us the freedom to do what we wanted within the Alpha structure. And so now that Lifetime's gone to the national programming, which is, and I've told them, great for most clubs like that need that don't have people that want to put in the time, and maybe they shouldn't be programming anyway. Maybe they're not good at it, even though they think they do. Maybe, but there are other clubs. We're not the only ones. There's other ones out there that have succeeded and done really well with their own programming. It's just it takes a little bit of time, but man, that's part of the fun for me. Georgia and I are like the people that programmed before her, like we may read something or hear something on a podcast or something like that, different techniques, different way of doing things, like, oh, we should try this in a class setting for over the course of like 3 to 4 months, see what the results are. So we'll do that. Some things we've liked, some things we haven't liked, some things we've liked and come back like, the next year and used again. But that's the freedom that we like to have, to try new things, see what works and doesn't work for our community. Yeah. So
if time and money was unlimited, what would you want to change about your current setup you have right now? Like if you had unlimited resources, what would you want to change?
Unlimited class time.
Yeah, class time.
Unlimited warm-up time.
Equipment, anything. What would be fun to change?
Yeah, there's always equipment-wise, there's things I wish we could do that just Lifetime doesn't have, or we don't have the setup to do. Mm-hmm. If I could do an hour and 15-minute classes, I would like to do that. We try to pack a lot in. We'd take a little bit longer on the warm-up. The warm-up isn't exactly to what I would want it to be, but do the best we can with that time. And then maybe like a proper cool down for people, we kind of don't do that, but a lot of people will stick around and do something on their own, but not everybody. It's a lot to fit in a small amount of time. Class time wise, I would love to add more classes. That's just about being able to fill them so it makes sense to have them. Yeah. I love my one-on-one clients, but if I could just coach classes all day long, this is what I love doing. I remember as a trainer, there's some trainers that have their niche, their specialty, mm-hmm. And I remember when I was going through 24-Hour Fitness and even at Genesis a little bit, and people would ask, what do you specialize in? I never really had a good answer for mm-hmm. it. I was like, I guess I can help a little bit of everybody. It wasn't until I started doing this that I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. Just from leading the class to getting involved in the competitions and trying to motivate people to do stuff that they wouldn't normally think they could do. I get people all the time when I try to push them to do competitions, or especially ours that we have coming up, Alpha Games. That's an easier barrier of entry to try to get new people to do, because it's in our space and they're used to it. But I'll still get some pushback like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. I'm like, if I didn't think you were ready, I wouldn't have asked you to do it.
Right.
And that'll get some people to do it, and then they're happy with themselves. So I don't even know what the question was. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
you're great.
Yeah.
You answered my question.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. You mentioned your training some, but how has your own training changed over the years? You're obviously, or maybe not obviously, you're very unobviously closer to 40 than 30.
Yeah. Well,
so
yeah.
How do you see the next 10 years going? I know that you're very lifestyle minded, so certainly that can help. But have you thought about things like HRT, peptides, whatever else? And then are you going to change your training at some point as well?
I'm sure at some point my training will change a little bit. It's already changed some mentally just within the last year or so. I used to be stuck on wanting to hit certain numbers when it came to weight, but I've not necessarily given up, but just with how my body is, there's always something going on, and I've tweaked and hurt myself trying to push really heavy weight, and I don't need to do that anymore. I still try to go heavy, but not the numbers that I was once trying to do. But man, my how I trained personally, back in the day when I was in college, it was like the bodybuilding splits or the bro splits, whatever you're talking about. That's when I thought CrossFit was stupid. Why would anybody do that? And then it kind of, once I got to, that was there for a little while. I was just trying to get bigger, that sort of thing. And I got to Lifetime and started switching a little bit, not necessarily CrossFit, but just the instead of muscle group based training, more movement based training, mm-hmm. Squats and hinges, pushes and pulls, and how that vertically, horizontal, that simple thing. So it just kind of switched up. So pretty much every day is some type of full body day, as opposed to just the muscle building splits or bodybuilding splits. Even though on Saturday mornings, I try to go to the gym before competition class. And I told myself that's my bro day. I try to go back to my roots and go out there and try to do that stuff. I don't usually get on a squat rack and do stuff there, but that's how it's changed a little bit. And then with competitions, trying to do more of those types of things. So it's evolved a little bit. over time.
You give a lot of speeches, and I think maybe Maddie rolls her eyes when you give
Just little speeches.
She's not the only one.
Class
Look,
speeches.
there's some people that like them. There's some people that think they're kind of cheesy. It's whatever.
Yeah.
They're short nuggets before every class.
Yeah.
But yeah. Have you ever been offended by my eye rolls?
No, because with every eye roll, I have somebody else. I know, and almost every time I have somebody else that's like, yes,
that's great.
Yeah, so it's not, you're never gonna please everybody. Yeah. It's all right, it's if one person is
that's enough.
Then that's if one person took something away or asked me more about something, then I'm happy with it. So
yeah, I do think that they are good, and a good actionable takeaway that a lot of people can have is it's okay to, not only is it okay to have fun as an adult, you should have fun as an adult. There should be some sort of play. When I don't go to a gym, I feel like I'm a dog that hasn't been to the dog park in a month.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would say for me, I feel like I'm at that dog park all the time, every day. Sometimes I forget that I'm 36, especially in class with how I act sometimes, but at 5 a.m, somebody's got to bring the energy, whether I actually have it or not. So, yeah, I can see that, but it's definitely, I try to bring those little things to people before class that sometimes have hit home with me, or sometimes if I see somebody, sometimes it's a conversation I may have with somebody that I'll pick whatever the word of the week and that little thing based on that one person. But I'm like, if this person needs to hear it, everybody needs to hear it. So sometimes I repeat things, like every few months I'll use the same word again, but sometimes it's a brand new one, and sometimes it's because of a conversation I had, and I'm like, everybody needs to hear this. So
yeah,
they do resonate with me
sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. One thing that I think is great and also interesting is that you have no issue with pregnant women showing up to your classes.
Oh, absolutely not.
Maddie was recently pregnant, but I guess how do you approach that? Did that scare you at first, or were you always, cognizant of the fact that women should continue to train in pregnancy and even early postpartum?
I'd say one of my first clients I ever had when I was at 24 Hour Fitness was she was pregnant. And so I hadn't even been in the game long enough to think otherwise. So from then I've trained one-on-one, probably 2 or 3 pregnant women over the course of being a trainer, but I've had even more be in class, I think probably like 3 or 4. So thinking of everybody that was in there. And just constantly just hearing the stories of like after they gave birth, like, oh my gosh, I recovered so much faster than my previous child when I wasn't working out. Yeah. So as long as we're doing stuff safely towards the end, like, yeah, we scale a lot of stuff, scale the weight back. We don't do certain movements, but you're still moving and still like, getting your heart rate up a little bit, for what's acceptable. But yeah, I have no issue. And I have people tell me they're scared about doing it. I'm like, I'm not going to talk against what your doctor says. So if your doctor says like to take stuff down, do it. I'm not gonna say against it, but if they're good with it, you keep coming to class and I'm gonna adjust stuff for you along the way.
I do. Stormy does have his limits because I was, probably 7 months pregnant and doing wall walks. And I was doing wall walks up the wall and you're looking at me like, you're like, I'm not going to tell you. If your doctor says you can do it, like, you're fine. I'm
like, are you sure you should be doing that?
Yeah, that's sure, you sure it's okay? It's like, well, if your doctor says it's fine, I'm not going to tell you no, but I don't think I'd recommend it.
Yeah. You get to a point where I'm gonna suggest something else.
My official recommendation is you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
but I'm not
correct.
Argue with your doctor.
That. Yeah.
How pregnant were you when you water skied?
Oh, I think I was like 26 weeks pregnant or something like that. I guess I don't know what that makes me.
Yeah, one good rule of thumb that people can have if they're pregnant and they're doing a movement that they're extremely comfortable with that has acceptable risk is if they're very comfortable with it, then they can continue to do so. But obviously anything that has potential trauma to your abdomen is
I would say that's where my brain was
risk.
at.
That's what I was thinking.
You want to lift a barbell over your head, you're comfortable with it, let's keep going. You're going to go up on a wall and potentially slip and land on your stomach. Let's maybe not do that.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing a full wall walk.
Oh, yeah,
I'll say that. It was a half wall walk.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good summary of takeaways. For those that are interested, please ask any questions below. If they have good comments, mean comments, actually post them below no matter what, because it's good for the algorithm.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
But yeah, for people that want to know more, is there a specific spot that they can go sign up as a trainer? I think they have to be a lifetime member if they want to sign up with you.
Oh, to work with me?
Yeah, to work with you.
Yeah, pretty much. So whether it be one-on-one or even coming to class, kind of have to be a lifetime member.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you can get, I tell people, if you can get in the door, whether on a guest pass or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you're always welcome to come to class. I mean, I don't mind people coming to class for a little while to give it a shot. So that's no issue, as long as you can get in the door.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think that about covers it for today. So again, for those listening, please post their questions that maybe we'll answer at a future time below. And for everyone else, thank you for your time, and may God bless you with health and happiness.
Thank you.